On yesterday's notes, you had to figure out that all the corresponding points are congruent in order for two triangles to be the same. These are going to be shortcuts to help you figure out two triangles are the same. So you don't need all 6 points anymore, but we have to know these shortcuts. So included side. Definition is the included side is a side shared by two angles. So in this picture here, if we label it X, Y, and Z, and we are using angle X and angle Z, then my included side is XZ. Because it is included in these two angles. Included side of angle X and angle Z is XZ. It cannot be XY or ZY. So the first shortcut we have is called angle side angle postulate. It says if two angles and the included side of one triangle are congruent to two angles and the included side of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. So as you can see, all we need is 3 pieces now to be the same in order to prove that two triangles are the same. So let's label these two triangles. It says if AD if angle A is congruent to angle D, so let's mark that angle A is congruent to angle D. And we're going to jump to angle C is congruent to angle F. My included side is AC and DF. We mark it congruent. So if those 3 pieces are true, then triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. That is known as the angle side angle postulate. So now for the 2 examples. Are the 2 triangles congruent? If yes, write the congruent statement, state the theorem or postulate that proves the triangle is congruent, and list the required 3 pairs of evidence. If no, briefly explain why not. So if we look at this first one, this angle is 90 and this one is 90. Therefore, they are congruent to each other. It shows that these 2 are congruent to each other, and they share this side. So we know that angle A is congruent to angle A. We have AP congruent to AP, and angle P congruent to angle P. Therefore, it is congruent by angle side angle. It says to write the congruent statement, so you can write that triangle GAP is congruent to triangle SAP. But now we look at example 2. We're only given this angle here. We're given this side. But we're not giving another angle that are the same. So therefore, these 2 are not congruent. Because we are missing another angle. Now we flip the page over and let's at the other side. The non-included side. The definition, the non-included side is the side not shared by two angles. It can be xy or yz. So let's plot it. We got y, x, z. So if I'm using x and z, then the one that is shared is this one, but I don't want that one. Therefore, it can be xy or yz. So the next theorem, angle, side, says if two angles and the non-included side of one triangle are congruent to two angles and the non-included side of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. So let's look. If I say that, let's plot it first. We get N, O, P, M, A, and P. If I say that N is congruent to P, that's one angle. D is congruent to M, that's another angle. Now we need a non-included side. You have two options, NO or DO for this triangle, PA or MA for this triangle. Each of these sides do not touch both of these congruent angles. So for this problem, I'm going to use NO, and I'll say that's congruent to PA. So angle A, so that's my angle. Angle D and angle M, it's another angle. And L is congruent to PA, that's my side. And they are congruent, it is known as angle, side. Once again, these two examples are asking us to state whether the two triangles are congruent. In this first one, we know that this is congruent to this. They share this side, which means this side is congruent. But we're missing an angle. Therefore, they are not congruent. And let's just put missing one more angle. That angle has to be congruent, and we need angle X to be congruent to angle Z. But now let's look at example 4. We have this angle here that are congruent. We have this side here. Now if we recall, these arrows here mean that their lines are parallel. Remember, parallel lines cut by a transversal. So I'm going to pick an angle here. This one will be congruent to this one by alternate interior angles. So we have angle D congruent to angle F. Angle G congruent to angle E. And DF congruent to DF. This is angle, side. So you can say congruent by angle, side. Now to write the congruent statement. Triangle, I'm going to start with the 1, G, to the 2, D, to the last letter, F. It's congruent to triangle. The 1 is E, the 2 is F, and the none is D. And we are done. Write down any questions you may have for tomorrow.